Hello and welcome to Crystal Masters, everybody, for April. Hello and welcome to our Crystal Masters for this month. I'm so excited for today's class. I hope you are too. I've been excited all week long for this day because we have some really fun things to talk about today. I love talking about clearing. I love talking about wands. I love talking about energy, especially kind of more esoteric facets of energy work. I love doing body work. I've got my assistant here with me today. If you haven't met this darling woman, I don't think she was finished when we had our last class. So this is Charletta. Charletta is your new BFF. How are you guys? Welcome in. We're in a pandemic, right? So I don't know why I say that. Of course we know that. So I don't have people in the room here to work on to show you body work techniques. So this lovely lady has made herself available to us. And so I can do body work and show you all of that fun using her. So she is going to be with us today. She's going to be opening all of her chakras for you, baby, to show you how to how to move some energy in your field. And it's really important. This process of clearing energy, you guys, truly, and moving energy through your body, this is the holy grail of energy work. And it's amazing to me. Well, I think she's less emotional support doll and more important assistant to us. But, this is the holy grail of energy work. And when I talk to people, I work with people from all over the world, from all walks of life, at all levels of spiritual consciousness and awareness. And when I talk to people about what we're going to talk about tonight, everybody says the same thing. I wish I had known that sooner. I wish I had understood sooner how energy works, what I can do to move energy in my body. And so my goal tonight is to give you some really practical techniques. Let me make sure my camera is set up. Ooh, it's not. Hold on just a second, guys. Sorry about that. There you go. These are all the Soul Shift tools for this particular month, but this is the tool in particular that we're going to be working with tonight. This is the custom tool that we provided for you in your tools this month, and then we had a few of them left over. So those were on sagegoddess.com. I think we have 2 left. So if you did not get the tool for this month, it was available through subscription, and then we had a few left over today. So at 7 a.m. this morning, the rest of those were live on sagegoddess.com. So if you would like one, you can go and grab one really quick. This is a custom-made tool for SG. It's the star of the show tonight. It is an orgonite Vogel with 3 spheres inside and a combination of gold and copper metal flakes. And I'm going to teach you all about what orgonite is. So tonight's class is what is orgonite, what's a Vogel, what are these clearing stones, smoky quartz and shungite and bronzite. What do I need to know about those? And then how do I actually move energy in my body? And also, why is that important? Why do we need to move energy in our body? How do you know if you've got stuck energy in your body? Stuck energy in your body shows up as depression and sorrow and anxiety. Stuck energy in your body shows up as physical pain too. So muscle, joint, any kind of pain in your body is usually a sign of some kind of stuck energy. Stuck energy can happen if you have a physical injury, obviously, so that creates pain. But stuck energy can also be energetic purely, that is not a result of an injury. And I've had that before, where it's like you have this weird pain and nobody can figure out what it is. You go to every specialist and they're like, I don't know why you have pain. That's usually energy that manifested on the physical level, if that makes sense. So I'm really happy you're here. I'm hoping tonight's going to really move a couple needles for you. And if you're super experienced as a crystal healer, by the way, who's new tonight? Because I know we have some new faces in Crystal Masters, and I specifically want to take a moment to welcome you, and we're so glad you're here. If you're brand new to crystals, my goal tonight is to help teach you some of the basics. If you're experienced with crystals and you're advanced on your crystal journey, which a lot of you are, I hope there's something in here for you, you know what I mean, that still makes you go, I didn't know that before, I hadn't thought about that. So look at that, Sarah's new and Melanie's new. So welcome you guys, and Delene and Brandy and Maria. Oh, I love it. And Natalie's new and Laura's new. Ooh, the feed went really fast all of a sudden. I may not be able to get to all of you by name just because it all of a sudden it jumped, but I really want to welcome all of you who are new to this program. I want to thank you for being here. And this is kind of your trial, right? So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find value in what I've put together for this class. This class is the result of a 30-year, more than 30-year love affair of mine with crystals, and it never ends. And even when I'm not working, all I do is talk about crystals, research crystals, talk to other people who love crystals, play with crystals. So we're super happy to have you here, and I absolutely believe that crystals are keys. I think they are technologies. In the way that we think about technology today, right? We think of technology as being advancements designed to improve our lives. Isn't that how you think of technology? Like, oh, here's this new thing that's going to help me sleep better or enjoy my life more, or, you know, not work as hard, or what, you know, whatever it is. I think of crystals as technologies, and I think they are far advanced beyond our capacity to understand them truly, which is why I think some people just completely write them off and blow them off and don't think there's anything to it, because it's almost overwhelming when you think about it. But the more you look into crystals, and truly welcome to you guys who are new, we're so happy you're here. The more you look into crystals, every single one has a unique structure. Why is that? Why do certain crystals have the same structure? So in other words, the beryl crystals, right? Aquamarine, heliodor, morganite, emerald. Why are they in the same family? Right? And so then you start to look at their healing properties, where they grow, latitude, longitude, and it's my life's work to kind of make sense of all of this. Why do certain crystals have certain structures? What is this concept tonight that we're going to talk about called piezoelectricity, right? Or piezoelectricity? What is that? Why do certain crystals have piezoelectricity and some crystals don't? What was Marcel Vogel, who created the Vogel crystal, what was he thinking about? You know, when he designed this concept, what was he looking at? What was he imagining was possible for crystals? So there's something really, there's a lot here tonight, and there's a lot of rabbit holes you can go down beyond tonight's class. So I'm going to cover as much as I can, and then if you want to go down the rabbit hole of Vogel and his experiments, Marcel Vogel, whose birthday it is today, of course he was an Aries, right? Aries people are super smart, and they're usually right. They're very strong-willed, but they're almost always accurate. Aries people, I have such respect for them. I'm raising one, and he's been like that, my son, since the day he was born. They're smart, they're dynamic, they're natural researchers, because they want to know how things work. They like to take things apart and put them back together. So Marcel Vogel was that, and Marcel Vogel started having these dreams about the Kabbalah tree of life, and he kept seeing that in his dreams. And then he was guided to make a crystal in the shape of the Kabbalah tree of life, which is, if you look at the Kabbalah tree of life and you look at a Vogel crystal, it's the same shape. And then he started seeing the circles of the tree of life vibrating within his crystals. And so ultimately, you know, we benefit from his legacy, and a lot of what I'm teaching you tonight is is based on all of that. So we're so happy that you're here. I look fuzzy to you? Do I really? Can you guys see me clearly? Sometimes if I'm like, I have to get the camera to focus. Am I fuzzy? Let me know. I haven't changed my camera since readings today, but I want to make sure you guys can see me really clearly, because then when I hold the crystals up, I want to make sure you can see it. Like, can you see that nice and clear? Test, test, test. Okay, good. All right, good. Okay, so let's back up to the beginning. Every time I start class, I ring our bell. I'm going to ring your bell. I am going to burn a little bit of the expansion incense from your Soul Shift tools. I know this is Crystal Masters, but it's part of Soul Shift, and I've been in the mood to burn incense today. I And rather than do it without you, I thought I would wait to do it with you. So just sprinkling a little bit of your expansion incense. And you know, that has your white sage in it. So that's another layer of clearing too into the space. And if you have your perfume and your elixir, which is your mist to sort of open the space, you can spray that too on your charcoal disc. Isn't that the coolest thing? Have you been doing that? It's magic, because the oils in your elixir will work on that charcoal for you too. Okay, good. I'm glad we're all clear and ready to go. So I want to begin by talking about energetic blockages more generally. And if there's time at the end of class tonight, I would love to create space for Q&A. I imagine you have questions, and I might have some answers. So, because this is such a big topic, I literally could sit here with you guys, truthfully, from now until Sunday. And we probably wouldn't be done with everything that we could talk about when it comes to energetic blockages and clearing. So I just kind of want to scratch the surface on this a little bit tonight, and then in Q&A time, I would love to kind of hear what's on your mind and see if you have additional questions, because when you guys ask a question, there's usually somebody else who has the same question, and they're usually grateful that you asked it, so I want to make space for that too. Energetic blockages are the main work of healers. They really are. Most people come to a healer when they feel like there's some kind of energy in their field and they don't know how to move it. They can feel something heavy. 9 times out of 10 when people come to me, they're like, there's something heavy. You know what I mean? It almost feels like, and then they start to, sometimes they'll come because that heaviness now has transformed from just a feeling to actually now I'm gaining weight, right? Because that's another way that energetic blockages can show up. When energy isn't flowing freely, your metabolism slows down, your adrenals get fatigued, right? Your cortisol levels increase. Energy has an impact on your physical body. And any MD, I'm a PhD, but any medical doctor is going to affirm this for you, that ultimately if you have heavy energy, it can show up in the body. And sometimes that's why we have issues that are very difficult to diagnose, because it's more of an energetic issue than it is even a physical issue. And it doesn't mean it's in your head. It literally means energy is real, and it can move from being an energetic issue to a physical issue in a very short period of time. You have the heaviness or you feel it. Most of us have had it before. I have certainly felt it. There have been times in my life where it was like you could cut it with a knife. Now, this can happen from any number of things. And one of the things Marcel Vogel taught us, okay? One of the things Marcel Vogel taught us is that our energy field is open. This is why he, and to some extent, I want to say his first name. I always forget his first name, but I always remember his last name, Wilhelm Reich. I always call him William Reich, and it's not William Reich, it's Wilhelm Reich. One of the things that Wilhelm Reich, who's the father of orgonite, okay, and say what you will about Wilhelm Reich, because he was really judged. You know, at the end of the day, in the scientific community, he was really seen as kind of you know, kind of a kook. I mean, people really took him to task. But he was trying to create this, like, I don't know, it was almost like a photo booth where he would make these layers of metal and insulation and stuff, trying to make I think it was called an accelerator or something like that, if I'm remembering it correctly. And so he got kind of written off. And that makes me sad when that happens, because I think if people get written off, we kind of write off everything they ever did. I actually think Wilhelm Reich had some interesting ideas about energy. It's just this one thing that he did at the end was kind of a little bit out there. So anyway, if you read about Wilhelm Reich, you're going to read a lot of critical material. But he is the father of orgonite, and he was the one who was really talking about orgone energy. And I'm going to teach you about orgone energy today. I'm going to tell you, some people really feel orgone energy, love orgonite material. Some people do not. And I'm not wedded either way. If at the end of class tonight you're like, I'm kind of like this or that with it, that's okay. If at the end of the night tonight you're like, I'm obsessed, I've got to have all the orgonite. Some people feel that way. I have friends who are very serious gem collectors, and they are organite collectors, and they, you know what I mean? They love it. They collect it. They use it all the time. So it really just depends on, it just depends on how you resonate with it. It's kind of the same thing with, somebody was talking about Andara crystals. I bought an Andara crystal when I was in the Bay Area, and it was expensive for me at the time. I mean, it's my Andara is in here. It's little tiny, okay? From the person who like swears the Andara was the real Andara. And there's a lot of skeptics. I saw somebody post in our group about Andara crystals, and you guys have strong opinions. You guys were like, oh, hell no with Andara. And I was kind of reading through the comments, and I'm like, they have strong opinions about this. I will tell you that I think there's something to organite. You ready for you want my full honest opinion? If you guys have worked with me for a while, you know that I actually really don't like to give a strong opinion, because I don't want people to feel like they have to agree with me or they can't disagree with me, you know? Like, I don't like that, because I think it's totally okay to feel differently than I do. For what it's worth, okay? I think there's something to it. I do. I don't know that there's more to it than if this was quartz, solid quartz, okay? Honest opinion. However, I can do things with organite that I cannot do with quartz. And so organite gives me the freedom as a medium, because I believe it's as powerful as quartz. It gives me the freedom as a medium to be able to put other things in there. So if I wanted to make this tool for you in quartz, first of all, I couldn't. How am I going to get gold, copper, and 3 spheres inside a quartz Vogel? Like, it just, like, mechanically it wouldn't happen. Does that make sense? So first of all, I couldn't make this for you in quartz. So it opens up these new possibilities, or these new ways of incorporating metals and stone that otherwise I would have no capacity to do. But I don't think it's more powerful than quartz. I am one of those people who really believes quartz is still one of the most powerful materials we have on this planet. I believe you can program quartz. I believe that quartz can take on the properties of almost anything you intend for it to. I believe it holds a frequency for a really long time. I believe it raises the personal energetic frequency. So again, you do not have to agree with me. You can love this. You can not love this. It's okay. But it gives me some freedom with the same capacity to conduct energy as I would have if this thing was made of solid quartz, which it couldn't be. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I would say for me, it's a similar frequency, but if you find it more powerful or less powerful, I don't think you're wrong. I think it ultimately comes down to your experience of it. But thank you for creating the space for me to like share my honest opinion. If I didn't think there was anything to it, I wouldn't have given it to you. Truthfully, I would never sell something or offer something as a class tool that I was like, I don't even know what this is. I don't like it. I can't do it. My team sometimes will want me, like, please, let's carry this thing. Please, let's order this thing. And I'm like, there's no way. I mean, and if Brooklyn was here, sitting right here, she would be shaking her head going, it's true. She tells me, get lost. We can't do it, right? So I don't bring you something unless I think it's great. But I'm not going to tell you this is more important than other tools that you have. It's just different. Does that make sense? I love me some good clear quartz. I sure do. Okay, good. I'm glad we talked about that. It makes sense to me, and sounds like it makes sense to you too. Okay, so what causes an energetic blockage? Let's talk shamanism for a minute, shall we? Energetic blockages are what we know in shamanism as contractions. And I know you're not here for a class in shamanism, and I'm not here to teach you shamanism. This is a crystal healing class. But I sometimes have to go above and beyond crystal healing so that you can understand how we got here, okay? So when something happens to you, of any kind, and it can be a micro issue or it can be a macro issue. Somebody you know, tells you to get lost, tells you you're ugly, somebody cuts you off on the street, somebody takes one of your Amazon packages off your doorstep, you know, you lose a loved one, like all the weird things that happen in the course of life, right? When those things happen, it is a jolt to the energy field. Okay, it is a, you know how you feel like, do you ever have that feeling when somebody says something to you and it's hurtful or it shocks you and you kind of like, you like feel it in your solar plexus? That's how I receive it. It's like, you know, it's like and I find myself going like this, right? Or you go, but you don't exhale, right? Those moments create what we call contractions. And when you contract, okay, you stop the entire flow of energy in your system. So when we contract, we tend to inhale but not exhale. So that stops the flow of energy right away, because anything that interrupts the flow of your breathing, right? Anything that interrupts that natural good flow of breathing is a contraction. And so when these things come in, they're like asteroids in your solar belt, right? I mean, it's just like boom, these things come in. And now as a coach and a teacher, what I would tell you is the most important thing you can do is learn that how you respond in the first 1 minute, 1 hour, and 1 day after something occurs dictates how you're going to heal 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years later. And I'm absolutely not kidding you. This is something I have learned with precision over the last decade. How you respond in the first 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day to a contraction dictates how you heal from that over the next 5, 10, and 20 years. So what I'm trying to teach you today is not just some techniques to move the energy once it's been stuck for a year or 5 years or 10 years, but also how to respond to trauma. When something happens in my life, I immediately stop and notice, and I exhale. I mean, immediately. Because if I don't exhale, then starts the contraction. And then if I just pretend it didn't happen and keep trying to move on, and then like later lay in bed and cry or whatever, like now I'm going in again, I'm contracting again. So I have to communicate, I have to express, I have to journal, I have to write down, I have to, you know, use all my tools, clear it with herbs and resins and everything, right? It's very important that you learn some techniques, because tonight we're doing damage control. Okay, tonight we're doing repair. Tonight we're doing healing. Healing suggests something has already happened. But I will tell you this, you're human, and so for better or worse, you're going to have some of these moments ahead of you in your life, right? We know this from being a human on earth. You're going to encounter things and situations, right? First and most important thing, like when my kids go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I failed my math test, right? The first thing I do is I go, right? And then immediately when they watch me, they go, right? Because I can see them contracting. And you may think that is not a big deal, but in their little life, it's a huge deal failing a math test, right? And so it's that, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, we're contracting, we're contracting, we're contracting. And I'm trying to teach them too, like, let that air out, take a breath, right? Put things in perspective. Let's process and dialogue and talk. These things are really, really important. So I'm glad this is relevant and making sense to you. Okay, so when we have, and in some of those indigenous traditions, when we incur something or experience something that really kind of knocks us off the rails, it's called an intrusion, is the technical name for this, right? So, and intrusions can look like all kinds of things. And intrusions can be intentional, somebody trying to cause you pain or harm. Intrusions can be unintentional. Intrusions can be perception-based. So I could say, oh, that's a cute red dress, and you could get totally offended because you don't like the word cute, right? So, and that can feel like an intrusion to you, even though it wasn't intentional on my part. So there's all kinds of ways this can look. You know what I mean? There's not one kind of intrusion. And again, there's a scale, right, of like minor intrusions and major intrusions, and you can imagine what that looks like, right? And for those of you who are, you know, a lot of us have lost loved ones in the last year, and some of us even, you know, tighter proximity than that in the last 60 days. So some of us are really moving through grief right now, and so this is going to be, I think, a really helpful exercise for you tonight to be able to move some of that energy through. And the one thing I want to say is, if you moving energy through doesn't mean that you are not honoring the person. Do you know what I mean? Moving the energy through and allowing grief energy to move through and past your field doesn't mean you don't continue to miss that person or honor that person. But I think living in the grief, living in the sorrow, living in any heavy emotion, dense emotion, living in rage, living in fear, it doesn't serve you, and it's not actually how we're meant to be. But some people hold on to certain emotions like grief because we feel like if I stop grieving, I mean, I have felt this way. Let me speak for myself. I have felt like if I stop grieving him, is he gone forever? Does he only live on as long as I grieve, right? And it's like, or her, or whatever it is. And the answer is no. They don't need you to grieve in order to have, their own integrity of their spirit, right? So that's one of the things I wanted to tell you tonight. So when we talk about Orgonite, we're talking about a material, right? We're talking about a material that, to the founder of Orgonite material, Wilhelm Reich, and to people who work with it, it is a form of a life force energy, what is called in other traditions the prana, the ki, the chi. It's the energy that runs through the meridians, or what in the Hindu tradition is called the chakra system, right? The nadis, or the energy centers that flow through your body. It's all the same energy. It is believed by the people who created this technology that this is a tool that you can use to channel that life force frequency. And so one of the reasons this is particularly good for grief is that grief is all about the life force energy. It's about our perception of loss of that force. Because grief, at least for me, always reminds me of my own mortality. When I'm grieving someone else, it's always a reminder that one day people will grieve for me, right? And so this is a really important tool, especially for those of you who are working grief energy, to be able to move that grief energy through the field, because it is a conductor of the life force, like literally as if your field was a symphony. And as we do this work tonight, and I hope you'll do it on yourself if you're someone who is struggling with grief, I hope you'll try it tonight and just see if you can feel a little bit of the energy loosening and moving, and then letting go of the guilt of what that might mean, right? Because you're holding it doesn't earn you a trophy for keeping someone's memory alive, right? It's like, how do you need to move through the experience of grief in order to find your way back to balance, right? Yeah, I see you. I see your comments. So, and I'm with you. And those of you who have suffered much more significant losses than I have this year, my heart is just absolutely with you. Truly. I've lost friends, you know what I mean? I haven't lost life partners or, immediate family members. So just know I don't put my loss on the same level, because I think there are intensities of grief, but nonetheless, my heart has grieved this year, so I can meet you there and we can look at that, I see you tonight. Okay. So let me just make sure I'm in the right order for how I want to tell this to you. Okay, so how is Orgonite made? Orgonite is a fiberglass resin. I'm going to come a little bit closer to the screen so I can snuggle you. Orgonite is a fiberglass resin, and it encases, it must include metal shavings and or a coil. Some people really insist there needs to be a coil, but we chose just to do the shavings. And yours has copper and gold. And you can really see the two tones. Can you see that pretty clearly? See how some of them are more like pinky? That's your copper. And some of them are more gold. So that's your gold. So there is real gold and real copper in there. Has to be. Because the metals are what conduct the energy, right? And then it has your 3 spheres. So this is smoky quartz here at the bottom, at the feminine end. The feminine end of your Vogel is the wider end. This is your bronzite right here in the middle, and then this is your shungite here at the masculine end, which is the more narrow end. She's chunky on her feminine side. Isn't it pretty? Yay! Oh, I'm glad you're here, Aurea. It's nice to see you. So that's kind of the constitution of it. And then, but what's interesting is, so the concept of piezoelectricity is that, and it's spelled Piezoelectricity. So piezoelectricity is this concept that when you place pressure on a system like this, as you would in encasing the metals and the stones inside of the fiberglass resin, right? So that requires that you exert a certain amount of pressure onto the tool, that when you exert that pressure at certain intensity and in certain directions, that it creates a polar charge. It creates a negative charge and a positive charge at the opposite ends. And that is the science behind, or the technology behind, how this works. So in the process of fusing all these materials together, they actually create piezo or piezoelectricity. What's interesting about this too, quartz is naturally piezoelectric. Quartz naturally has this capacity, and it gets maximized in this particular shape. Now, one thing, yeah, and if you don't have a Vogel from the class tools, but you have your own Vogel, go get that out of your collection. I don't have any right now at sagegoddess.com, but we've had quite a few, you know, over these last couple of years. So if you have any Vogel from any time, clear quartz, amethyst, God, what else have we had? We've had red aventurine and almost green aventurine. I think we've had rose quartz and every stone in between. So if you have any kind of Vogel in your collection, small, medium, or large, jumbo, whatever you've got, go grab it. You know what I mean? And because we're going to talk about the shape and not just the organite and the stones inside. Yeah. Okay. So quartz naturally does this. Now there is I want to get the exact angle for you. The pyramids in Egypt, and I just learned this year. So when I taught you about Vogels last year, I didn't share this with you because this was shared with me by a friend of mine who lives very close to the pyramids in Egypt. So fascinating. If she's right, I think this is really interesting. You ready? New information alert. So what she told me is that this degree right here, from this point down to the tip, is the same degrees in a proper Vogel, okay? The same angle at which the pyramids were built. And this particular angle, in her opinion, is what creates the piezoelectricity. Because remember, the pyramids were built as sound chambers, right? In the ancient times, if you look at the pyramids, there's sort of like a map of the chakras, and each pyramid was aligned to a specific frequency. So what the priests would do in ancient Egypt is they would take people to the different pyramids, depending on what their illness was or what their ailment was, and they would be treated in the sound chamber aligned to the healing for that frequency. Does that make sense? And so, doesn't it make sense that if you build a wand where the top and the bottom, are you guys following me? I know this is complicated, so let me know if it's not clear, and I'll share it a different way. Wouldn't it make sense that if you built a wand where the angles at the top and the bottom were the same degree as the angles of the pyramid, that it would create that same harmonic resonance? And so if it fueled the sound chambers, right, so what it allowed was for the frequency to be infused throughout the entire pyramid at the same intensity. So no matter where you were in the pyramid, right, it would have the same frequency. And so that's what's happening with this wand. No matter what really is happening within this wand, it retains the same frequency. Fascinating, isn't it? Interesting to me too. Okay. So, and Vogel knew this. Marcel Vogel knew this. So he deliberately designed and constructed this wand to have this particular degree so that it would have that harmonic resonance, and it would be able to infuse the same vibration through the whole field. The other thing, and I did teach you this last year, but I'll remind you because some of you were not in class last year when we talked about this. He was obsessed with the faceting on the side. So between that harmonic angle and the facets on the sides, you facilitate what he called spin, okay? And so this tool is spinning even though you can't see it because of the number of the facets on the side and because of the degree, the harmonic degree at the top and the bottom. Fascinating, right? So, well, it mostly should be, it's true, Angel, and I mean, most people who carve, I can tell you, my carvers are not able to sit with a 52-degree angle and make sure that it's exact, right? So I think it's the general angle at which these are carved, and you have to carve. If you notice, all Vogels are carved with a relatively similar design, meaning wider at the top and more narrow at the bottom. If your wand is faceted around the middle, but it's not wider at the top, technically it's not a Vogel. Because the way Marcel Vogel communicated that polarity that's part of piezoelectricity, the way he communicated it to his audience who wouldn't really understand polarity, negative and positive charges, he described it in terms of male and female, which is still true, right? That's still a duality of charge, right? So the top end is always wider and the bottom end is more narrow. And as I mentioned at the beginning, that's also because he was dreaming of the tree of life, which is more wide at the top and narrow at the bottom. Pretty interesting stuff, right? So yeah, so that is kind of the root of why Vogels are so special. Now, yours is an 8-sided. I thought so, but I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't 9-sided. Yours is an 8-sided. Marcel Vogel preferred even numbers of sides, so it's important. 8 is the number of prosperity and infinity. So we thought that was cool to do the 8 sides on this. We also didn't want to do additional sides because when you double and triple the sides, the cost of the tool, I'm sure you probably realize this, but the labor increases with the number of facets and sides. So we wanted to keep your tool for $30. So if we had done 32 sides or 64 sides or something like that, it would have become a more cumbersome and more expensive tool. So we wanted to keep the price low for you. So 8 tends to be, you can find a 6-sided Vogel, but you generally want more than 6 sides. 8 is sort of the minimum that you want for spin. And so you end up with a tool that looks like that. And so you're looking at your smoky quartz sphere through the orgonite material, and then the bottom looks like that, looking up at your shungite sphere from the bottom. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Okay, good. Well, Hillary, let me know what questions you have. She said this is she's new and she's feeling lost. Alexis will help you too, Hillary in the feed, just to, so feel free to ask any specific questions you have. I'll try to, if there's a specific question, I'll try to give you an answer in a slightly different way, because I'm a teacher trained for a long time, so I know I can come at things from different directions to make it a little bit clearer. So let me know. Oh yeah, well, if you missed the first half hour, you might be feeling a little lost, so it might be good to go back to the beginning too. Okay, good. Good. Okay. Now, the other thing I wanted to tell you, this technology, this pyramid technology, right, from Egypt, this spin technology in terms of faceting, this incorporation of quartz into construction on the planet is Egyptian. I mean, really, when you think about it. And to that extent, it's Atlantean, because everything that came to us from Egypt began in the Atlantean civilization. So that's important for you to remember too. We're talking about Atlantis here. This is not new information, and that's why I like to refer to orgonite as a technology, because I think of it as something that really ultimately has come to us through these people. Marcel Vogel definitely felt that he had Atlantean leanings. I'm pretty sure Wilhelm Reich did too, identify with Atlantis. So it's interesting how, and a lot of us who consider ourselves Atlantean also feel those connections to that place and that energy. So it's a nice little reminder that there's always a connection to these ancient civilizations too. Oh, I love that. It's true. It takes us back to those origins and those roots. I will tell you, if someone could really, in a way that would satisfy my intellectual curiosity, which has not happened yet, I only get bits and pieces. If someone could really lay it out for me, the pyramids, the angles, the notes of the chakras, and the harmonics and the technology of the pyramids, I feel like that would really help us understand our crystals more, because I think we would really start to understand the importance of frequency and geometry. I really do. I hope it happens in my lifetime. I've told my kids before, I'm like, if they figure all this out in your lifetime after I'm not here anymore, I'm going to be so mad. You just should know. You should look up and go, they figured it out, Mom. You know, however many years too late. But I really hope all those discoveries are made in my lifetime. I want to be able to enjoy them, you know? I'm sure you probably feel the same way. Okay. Let me go through here now. Now, Wilhelm Reich believed that orgonite was primarily to be used for transmutation. Okay? So he believed that this material attracted low vibrations, specifically for the purpose of being able to shift, transform, and transmute them into a higher, lighter frequency that would be usable. And so that's ultimately why we chose this for today's class, because if it's all true, and you know me, I'm still something of a skeptic. Like, I like to try things, I do what works, I keep what works, I let go of what doesn't or whatever. But if everything that Reich believed is true, and he was a very smart man. We can write people off and say they were kooky and stuff like that, but if you really do research into him and the work that he was doing, he was a smart cookie. And so I think if it's all true, this is probably the best clearing tool I've ever brought you in the 10 years of Sage Goddess. It's just a pretty big statement to make, and yet I'll stand by it, because if it's all true, this could be a very powerful tool for you. And we designed it. Our team designed it. We were sitting around, it was me and Alexis and Tara and Claire and Brooklyn and Robin kind of going, what could we make as a tool for them? It's like, do you think we could make an orgonite wand with clearing spheres inside of it and copper and gold for alchemy? And it's just like, oh, I don't know. So we kind of dreamed it into being, which is pretty neat. So if it draws in that negative energy, then ultimately what it does is it neutralizes that energy. And what's interesting to me is most traditions talk about neutralizing energy, right? In some of the indigenous shamanic traditions, they talk about kind of composting energy, right? That our Mother Earth can take every bit of heavy, dense energy that we accumulate, and she can mulch it for us, right? We can release it into the earth, she can take it, she can mulch it and return it to us in the form of usable energy. So this is not a new concept, this idea of transmutation and transfiguration and mulching of energy, right? And the returning of energy to something that can transform it and then, return it to us in a different form. So it's not a new concept, but definitely this is the only material that I've ever heard people say kind of categorically, if there is something that can really withdraw and transform it, it's this. Now, Reich went so far as to say, and I'm not going to say this because Reich went so far as to say that this material could neutralize the effects of radiation, nuclear radiation. I don't know. I'd be curious to know your thoughts on that. That's a big bite to chew for me. I hope never to test the theory, but he believed that. He believed that if someone was experiencing intense nuclear radiation, that they could use orgonite to actually transmute that. Can you make your own? Maybe. I've never tried it, but probably. I mean, why not? When I was younger in my journey of Sage Goddess, there was a young man who came to me, and he was making his own orgonite pieces. And I had some of them a long time ago. They were like little discs. Do any of you still have those? I have mine at the office. I still love it. They were little discs, and they had some rainbow hematite kind of little shards on there. Really beautiful little discs, and he had all the little copper spheres in there, and he had his sacred geometry. I mean, it was nicely done material. So I don't know. I mean, I don't see any reason why you couldn't try. And then let us know, right? So yeah, Carolyn says there's people here who make their own orgonites, so why not? I know we have resin artists in our community. I don't know if they're orgonite artists, and I think that's different. Because orgonite, so let's talk about the differentiation between because I'm a late night Etsy shopper. Sometimes I think I need help with that habit, but I like supporting artists and I find such beautiful things. So I've been buying some of those resin trays because I really like those. Those are not organite. What differentiates resin from organite? Organite has to have the metals in it. It's usually powered by a copper coil, but it at very least has to have the copper sprinkles or sparkles in it. And then it has to, usually, most people agree, it has to have some kind of quartz in it, or at least a gemstone in it to be able to also power it. So anyway, I've bought some really beautiful resin creations on Etsy because I love it so much. It's so fun. But organite is not just a resin creation. Yeah, so it has to meet those other criteria. And that's a great question. Ida's asking, are organites personal like crystals? I don't know. I mean, for me, no. Not like quartz. Quartz for me forms a relationship. All of my quartz crystals, I feel like they're friends. I know them, they know me. Sometimes if I go to gift one, I feel like they almost resist it. Like quartz gets kind of comfortable because it's got such a high frequency that it absorbs a lot of energy. So I don't know. It would depend on kind of what you think too. So I love resin art, but I think there is a little bit of a difference, at least for me. Okay. So before we start doing some body work, do you have any questions about everything that we've just covered? I want to talk to you about the crystals inside, but do you have any questions about organite or energy flow or energetic obstacles or contractions? Anything I can answer before we move on. Does this Vogel need clearing? Only if you want to clear the energy of SG, because when everything comes to SG, it's cleared, you know, in our space. I mean, our building is cleared energetically, I don't know, Alexis, what would you say, 20 times a day? So the only frequency that this tool is holding right now is our shop frequency. But you're welcome to clear that too. I mean, if it feels like you need to clear it, clear it. But everything that comes into SG, we're constantly, that building gets smudged, literally, it's got to be 8, 10, 12 times a day. Because there's so much in and so much out. We have to be able to manage that energetically. So, yeah. Do illnesses come from blocked energy? I believe they do. I think illness comes from the push down. Do you know what I mean? Somebody hurts you and you're like, move on, and then, you know, you break up with somebody and it hurts you and you move on, and you lose someone you love and you move on, and you just keep pushing stuff down. I think that's where our body breaks down. Yeah. Let's see. Why is it designed for transmutation only, and what would the other uses for such a tool be? It's a great question. I don't want to say it was only designed for transmutation, but my point was that Wilhelm Reich, who created the concept of organite, focused on it for its capacity to transmute energy. Now, when you think about it, if something can transmute energy, that means it's holding a high enough frequency to be able to take dark energy and make it light. The main reason that we would focus on that here is because you may just be in Crystal Masters, but the broader Soul Shift content for the year is alchemy. And alchemy is all about taking what's heavy or burdensome or, you know, no longer usable, and transforming it into something that can be usable to you. But any tool that can transmute can do almost anything else you would need it to do, because it's carrying a strong enough frequency that it can actually take what's heavy and make it light. So what else can it do, right? So I would look at it as something that's helpful for transmutation would be a multi-purpose tool for me. Does it need to be cleared between uses? Well, not this one. That's the benefit. So yeah, if it didn't have smoky quartz and shungite in it, I would say you probably should be more diligent about clearing it. But this has one of the most powerful purifying minerals inside of it, and then it has copper to conduct that energy. So the energy of shungite is completely through this entire tool. So this tool does not need to be cleared. If you have something else in organite, and I don't know what you have, but if it has doesn't have shungite or selenite or something inside of it that's a naturally purifying mineral, then I would want to see you clear that tool, yeah, after you work with it. Okay. So I'm gonna hold off just for now because there are a lot of questions, but I'm gonna do the body work with you, and then like I said, I'm gonna try to make some more space at the end of our time together tonight so that I can respond more directly to your specific questions too. Okay. So let's talk briefly about the 3 stones that are here. If you don't have these stones, by the way, Alexis, before we started, put 2 of them. I didn't see any shungite, Alexis. Are we completely out of shungite? Yeah, I didn't see any tumbled shungite or any shungite in the list of items and that we were looking at on the website today that are the same as this. So let me know, Alexis. We do have, if you didn't get the tool, we do have tumbled bronzite and tumbled smoky quartz for you at sagegoddess.com. So if you want to work with the energy of the stones that are inside of this, these are 2 of them, and then you would need shungite. But I don't know that we have any shungite right now. We should. The problem with shungite right now is pandemic. Yeah, it's been hard getting things out of Russia. Yeah, so anyway, we'll have more shungite in stock as soon as we can. So I want to briefly talk to you about these 3 stones. Smoky quartz, which comes primarily from Brazil. This is Brazilian. It's Brazilian in your wand too. The legend of smoky quartz, which I love, I always share this with you, but if you're new, you may not have heard it before, is that it used to be clear. But then it started pulling yucca muck out of your field and it turned brown. So the legend is that it's holding all of the darker, heavier energy away from you, and so you don't have to worry about it, right? Okay, so that's the top stone that we put there for you. I put quartz at the top because quartz, of those 3 stones inside of your wand, quartz has the highest vibration, the highest frequency, so it has the most open energy field of these 3 stones. Shungite, in my experience, has the tightest energy field, meaning that it holds its molecules tightly and it vibrates at a slightly lower rate than quartz. So I tried to put them in order of vibration, and then I tried to direct it toward the feminine and masculine, right? Because again, this is the feminine end. This is the end that gathers the energy. So quartz has a capacity to gather and hold more energy. This is the end that releases the energy, right? This is the masculine end. This is the end that penetrates the portal to release the energy, penetrates the field to release the energy, right? So it goes in to gather, and I'll show this to you on Charlotta in just a second, but it goes in to gather and out to release, in to gather and out to release. So there's a method to that madness in terms of the order of the stones and where they arrive. The second stone that's in here is called bronzite. And bronzite is a beautiful stone of releasing. It's the stone of releasing with grace. And bronzite is so great for all forms of releasing. We have some tumbled pieces at Sage Goddess. I think they're like, they're $4 for these big like 1 to 2 inch pieces before your discount. Bronzite is a stone that you can actually take, and I've done this a dozen times at least in my life, where I've had something really challenging happen, or lost someone I love, and I have put all of my grief, all of my sorrow, all of my regrets, whatever it is, into that bronzite and buried it. And that is a really beautiful, powerful, simple releasing ritual. Some people go more complex with it. They'll make what we call a despacho. They'll take their bronzite and gather it up with herbs and flowers and other organic materials. They'll write a note to the person that they've lost, or they'll, whatever it is, and then they'll bury the whole despacho together. But this is a really nice, easy way to do a simple releasing ceremony with bronzite. And then the bottom stone is shungite. Yeah, the bronzite stars were pretty, weren't they? I really love that too. I have to say, all of our Crystal Masters tools I'm still using. I never take this off of my tray of tools. I just burned my candle on it last week. It's still got my wax on there. I love these shungite plates so much. So It makes me happy to see that you're still using your tools and working with them from the previous months, because everything that we've used so far is still in rotation on my altar all the time, including the bronzite star. So I'm really glad you're still working with that too. So Shungai comes from Karelia, Russia. If it's real. If it's real, it's from Karelia. And Shungite is a filtering stone. So I always say it keeps the good in and the bad out. And it's such an important stone if you are trying to protect your energy field. It really helps to block EMF. So, and a lot of people are concerned about EMF because of 5G and all the things that we have to be concerned about, right? So it's a great stone for releasing. And again, the masculine is the releasing side of your tool. So gather, release, gather, release, gather, release. And then the bronzite in the middle is about you making peace with that process, right? Like, are you ready to let go of what you know you need to release, right? And being able to do that with grace, so you're not holding on to things that no longer serve you, right? Yeah, we will try. Honestly, I probably could have gotten more tools this year, you guys, if it wasn't for the pandemic. We're doing better in the US now, but like India's heading for another shutdown right now. Parts of Europe where we have certain things carved are shut down right now. Like so I'm hoping once we get our act together later this year that we won't experience so many delays. That's one of the reasons, by the way, if you want your tools for May, you only have until midnight tonight to sign up for them. Did you know about this? So in May, I can't tilt it because they'll all fall off, but in May, this is your prosperity grid, because May is the money month. And so I'm teaching you about how to grid, I'm teaching you about prosperity, and then we're activating this grid together in May. So this is the tool, and you have until midnight tonight to subscribe for your tools. So that's really important. Same thing goes for Soul Shift with your drum for next month. Yeah. So if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't subscribed for your tools after we're done with class tonight, you need to go and do that. That's very important. Okay. So what I want to do now is bring our lovely model over. It's so nice being able to have a way to do body work on you. Although I really do want to teach you how to use this tool on yourself too. So I think I'll start with you. And then I'm going to demo this on Charlotta for you. I know, we have a drum in your Soul Shift tools next month from Momo. Momo had these drums made for me in Bali by his team. I know, it's a sweet connection. So if you want your tools, they're there. So I'm just going to open a quick circle. I like to do this when I'm moving energy. I just do, because it's a lot. And I'm just going to call in the guides and the guardians of the 4 directions to be present with us. You don't have to do a big, long, extended remix of the directional invocation. It can just be as quick as, I want to welcome in the guides and the guardians of the East to open our circle, to open our minds to new perspectives on healing tonight, to be able to help us move energy with ease. I want to welcome in the guides of the South to help us move and shift and transform that energy and to release what's stuck so that we can move through. And I want to welcome in the guides and the guardians of the West to help us create space for healing. And I want to welcome in the guides and the guardians of the North to help us stay grounded and present while we do our healing work together tonight. And we give thanks to the guides for being here. It's just nice when you're doing energy work and moving stuff around. It's nice to have everybody here. Okay. So the first thing I like to do, and I like to teach you guys simple techniques that you can use, but again, I know you're going to be working, I hope you're going to be working with clients, right? So When you have someone come to you and and they're telling you they have a blockage, right? They're feeling pain, they're not sure, it feels heavy, it feels tense, what do I do? I like you to have some things in your toolkit other than crystals, because every crystal reading I've had, or every crystal healing session I've had from a crystal healer in my life, was just crystals, which is okay. But I like sound, and I like movement, and I like meditation, and I like journey, and I like drumming, and I like all those things. So I do like to teach you just a little bit, not to push you outside your comfort zone. But the number one thing I like to do when somebody says, you know, there's energy in my body and it's not moving and I can feel it, is I like to come in with my rattle. And I like to set the intention that this rattle is going to break up any dense or heavy pockets of energy in this person's field, and give thanks for energy that's already going to begin to move on its way. So I start at the top of the person's head. And if you want to stand up, I'll rattle you. Or just come closer to the camera. And I bring it through the vertical field. So from your root to your crown. The music is like right on time with this too. And then I like to, if the person is standing, I like to have them turn around so I can do it down the back. And just keep breathing while you're moving. Feels good, doesn't it? Are we going to discuss the different sound hurts and their purposes? I think we may have done that last year. Doesn't mean we can't come back to it this year. So I'll have Alexis check in with you, and if we can, we will. I love talking about frequency. Now for the next line, I'm going to bring it across. So I'm going on your horizontal axis, right? Just very gently. If you were here, I'd have you stretch out your arms. So if you're laying on the table, I'd have you stretch out your arms. If you were standing, I'd have you stretch out your arms, and just moving the rattle through your horizontal field. Moving, shifting. And I'd have you turn around. If you're laying on my table, I'd go under you. As long as you're within 12 inches, you're good. That's why when I'm right up on the camera, if you're near your camera, you can feel this. It doesn't matter if I'm in the room with you or not. Zoom healing, baby. Yeah. So rattling begins the process of breaking it up. It's sort of like what would be a good analogy for that? If energy is seized and you just try to go in and start moving it, you know, it's like it's going to be much easier to move if you can start to create space between those molecules, right? I mean, really, that's what we're doing with a rattle. Is we're agitating the energy enough so it starts to break up, and it's easier to move in between those molecules. Does that make sense? Okay, and then the next thing I like to do, and you don't have to do this, but if you were here and you were in the bed or on the table and I was going to work on you, I would ask you where you feel the energy is blocked. How many of you know where your energy is blocked right now? I have a sense. I have healed from almost all physical pain I had about a year ago. And that has taken a year with energy work and 2 different teachers and all kinds of crazy stuff I've been doing. And doing a lot of the things that I teach you. So I don't really have much of a block right now. But what I like to do is use the pendulum to diagnose, okay? So let's bring the pendulum, if you have a pendulum, through your field. And again, just starting right at the crown, or just, you know, above, where it's comfortable for you to run. Is the energy clear? 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 clear? Is the energy clear? Did anybody just see what I just saw? This is kind of a big deal for me. Is the energy clear? That's why I was checking it. I'm like, is the energy clear? Is the energy clear? Is the energy clear? Is the energy clear? I almost don't believe it. This is the first time I've gotten a clear reading at my solar plexus in ever. I'm not kidding. Wow. I almost don't believe it. I have solar plexus issues. So I'm just going to celebrate that for a minute. Wow. Anyway, I've been working really hard. Maybe it finally happened. If you don't have a rattle, use a pill bottle. If you don't have a pendulum, use a necklace. This necklace right here, awesome pendulum when I'm traveling. Is it clear too? Now you guys have seen how screwed up my solar plexus is. I mean, I've done it live and it's always like, nope, screwed up, screwed up, screwed up. Look at that, I love it. Okay, so if you don't have any places or pockets, you may not need to work on yourself tonight, okay? If you do, I'm going to invite you to do this work on yourself first, and then I'll show you on Charlotta too. So what you want to do, let's say I did have a blockage, and by the way, even if you don't have a blockage, it doesn't hurt to go in and clear the energy, right? You can't create a blockage by clearing, right? I'm so excited. It's a really big deal. That literally hasn't happened to me before. I was like, wait for it. Okay. So remember, when we're moving through the field, we're rocking this motion. We're going, and it's an infinity sign. Okay. So we go into the energy field with the feminine end, and we release with the masculine, and in with the feminine and release. It's like a rock. We're rocking back and forth. It's a very fluid, easy motion. Not difficult, not challenging. I know, I feel like I won an award tonight. It may not seem like a big deal to you, but oh my God. I can't wait to text my teacher when we're done. Even though it's going to be 9 p.m. his time. Oh my God. Okay. Does it matter what hand you use? No. So you use your left hand if you're left-handed, and your right hand if you're right-handed. Does not matter which hand you're using, but it almost looks like you're conducting a symphony, right? Which you are. You're conducting the energy in the field. You're conducting. Right? Okay. Now, in your own field, so if I was working on my solar plexus, which I'm still going to work on now because part of me doesn't believe it. I mean, I do. Is you would come in and so you would gather and release. Gather, release. Gather, release. I'm so happy. Now, I'm going to teach you different ways to release the energy tonight. Anna's asking a great question. You're gathering up some energy right now, and if you are releasing, right now I'm not releasing, but if you are releasing, it's very important to give that energy a place to go. And I've been teaching you alternative techniques to opening a portal because some people don't want to open a portal, and the reality is you don't really need to open a portal. So one of the things I want you to do tonight is to consider, if you don't want to open a portal, because we got to give that energy a place to leave us, right? So gather, and as you release and you point toward the ground, consider making contact with the floor with your tool. So in and out and down, and in and out and down, and in and out and down. And I'll show you this more when I'm working on the on Charlotta. In and out and down, and in and out and down. Does that make sense? In and out and down, and in and out and down, and in and out and down, and in and out and down. Feminine is gathering the energy, masculine's releasing it. In with the feminine, out with the masculine. In with the feminine, out with the masculine. Two other ways to do this is with water. So if you, I'm not going to do it with this because I'm drinking this, but if this was just a regular glass of water, because you can release to any element, right? You guys could see it though when I was sitting here, right? You guys could see that, right? Really? You didn't see what I just did? This right here. Could you see this? In and down, in and down, in and down. Can you just clarify? Because that's the movement. In and down, in. You can't see this. Really? Ooh. Okay. Because this is my screen that I can normally see in the videos afterward. I'm confused. But I'll do it again. Really? You can't see this high up on the screen? Oh, you can see my hand. Well, this is what I'm showing you. Imagine my hand is the ground. In and down, in and down. I'll show you on the ground in just a second, but I was like, you can't see my hands? Okay, good. Okay, good. Now, if you don't want to release to the ground, you can release to water. If this was a glass of water, you could go into the energy, and I'm not going to release it into what I'm drinking, but down, okay? In and into the water, in and into the water, in and into the water. Okay, good. You can see my hand. I'm like, what? The last way that we talked about doing this, that some of you like to do, it's not my favorite thing to do because I prefer just to use the earth, right? Just to use the floor beneath me. But some people are using soil. I think it's smart. You can bring fresh soil or whatever you have in your garden in a little clay pot, and you can release into actual dirt and then take the soil and put that soil back into your garden. Does that help? Okay, cool. So you can release to the floor, you can release to water, you can release to some soil instead of opening a portal. And people seem to like that better. I will tell you, I'm still a portal lover. I still love portals. I think I'm always going to open portals just because that's how I was trained. But I also, as a teacher, like to go with the flow, and I like to do what is, sort of grabbed her by the crotch there, didn't I? I like to do what is comfortable for people in my classes. So I'm going to bring her back so you can see. Yeah. Would it need to touch the water? I think it needs to touch the water. I like to touch it to the element. Does that make sense? So touch the water, touch the soil, touch the floor. I'm so glad. Okay, good, good, good. If you guys want to learn how to open a portal, I can show you that tonight too, as another technique. If you haven't seen me do it before, but for tonight, this is kind of easy. Okay. So here we have our lovely Charlotta, right? So now I always like to give my clients something to hold during a crystal healing session. So I'm going to give her a smoky quartz to hold. I'm going to put it next to you, darling. And then I'm going to give her a bronzite to hold. And then you could ask some interesting questions too of your client. Like, are they releasing something from the masculine side? So a male relative, a male partner. Are they releasing something from the feminine side? Because you may want to look at which side needs to be focused on in the body and where they're experiencing blockages. The masculine side of the body is the right side. That is the projecting masculine side. The receiving side of the body is the left side. That is the feminine receiving, okay? So if she needs more work on the feminine, we're obviously going to focus more on the left side of the body, including the left limbs. And if she needs more releasing work on the masculine, we're going to work more on the right side of the body, including the right limbs. So this is kind of an interesting way to think about how you introduce the work to your client and the kinds of conversations you want to have about what kind of loss they're experiencing. And then the same applies, so I want to go through and rattle and clear some energy. You could use a singing bowl, you could use a tuning fork. I just like a rattle. And then the same thing with her, you know, if her arms are outstretched, we could go along her arms. I like to go out beyond the fingers. And then bring it back over. And then out beyond the fingers. And if there's a lot of grief and stuck energy, really bringing rattle over the heart. And you'll notice me, I breathe a lot when I'm doing energetic work. You'll hear me using what some people call the Shakti breath. It's, for me, when the energy becomes really dense and heavy, I've trained myself to release it through my breath. So that's something that you can do too. If you start to feel like you're really holding a lot of energy, you can, right? And when you breathe, your client, it's like a permission slip for your client to breathe too. You'll notice that all of a sudden their diaphragm lifts. As soon as you breathe, it's like they find the permission to breathe too, right? Do you use it? Yeah, so it's good for you if you can learn how to do it. At first, when I first started using my breath in that way, it wasn't natural to me, and now I do it without realizing it, and it feels really good. And you can also tell, like, even when I'm doing a reading for a client, like if I'm in the field and I'm reading and all of a sudden I'm like, whew, it's because there's energy that comes up and I don't want to hold it in my body as a healer, so I need to be able to give that energy a sort of a pathway through my system. Yeah, so that's really important. And so one of the things, so sort out, before you do work on your clients, sort out how you're going to release that energy. I'm going to release it to the floor. And so to the question of can you absorb their negative energy, or can you absorb their illness, or can you absorb their blockage, the answer is no, if you do it correctly. People who absorb negative energy when they're doing healing fall into a couple of camps, okay? Those are people who don't open circles, okay? So every kind of energy's in, every kind of energy's out, and there's no container, okay? Those are people also who tend to think or believe or facilitate as if the energy and the healing is coming from them physically and personally, right? I see the energy as coming from source. And so I feel like my job is to channel that energy into the tool and then release the unwanted energy through the tool into the earth. So I'm the only job I have in this is to hold the tool. But this energy isn't coming from me. I'm not God, right? I am not the healer. The energy is the healer, I'm the channel, right? So I think that's the other thing that keeps you safe, is recognizing that at your very best you're a conduit, right? But you're not the magic. You're the conductor of the ceremony or the symphony. You're not the symphony. You're not playing all the instruments, right? So keeping that perspective is really important too. And the third thing is, they don't give the energy a trajectory to leave, right? So there's no grounding the energy, there's no releasing the energy to earth, to water, to portal, whatever it is. So then the energy sits in the room. Or the energy jumps from the client to the healer, right? Because the energy is just sitting there. So I really believe in the need to create a trajectory for that energy to leave, and that's very, very important. And I would say every crystal healer should do that. And that's the other, one of the main reasons I'm teaching crystal healing is I've had a lot of crystal healing sessions, and I've had people remove energy. I've never had a single one of those people open a portal, release that energy to elements. I mean, I don't know where, you know what I mean? So I've seen some practices that concern me, because again, this isn't just about putting a crystal down and waving your magic wand. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot at play here, and it's all in the etheric field, so you can't see what I'm talking about, but energetically it's very real. So it's really important, I think, to mind your protocol, which is why I spend a lot of time kind of harping on these details with you too. There's always orbs behind me. I know. This room is where I do all my ceremonies. You're actually in my healing room. I've worked some pretty big miracles right in the space where you are. And on the floor right where her legs are is where I do my ayahuasca ceremonies. And so anyway, if you sense a lot of magic in this room, you would not be wrong. Yeah. So you're not necessarily removing and then filling. And the reason is what I taught you earlier about this tool. This tool is a transmutation tool. So it's not about releasing and filling. It is about literally, as this tool is gathering energy and releasing it, it is also transforming it instantaneously. That's why I'm telling you, the tools this year, you guys, I will use this tool forever. I'm addicted to it. I've tested it. I've run my pendulum over it. And I do believe that it is, as it's removing, it's transmuting. So you don't have to come in behind this tool and say, I now infuse you with pure white light. It's already doing that. Does that make sense? So it's like a one-stop shop in terms of both removing and transforming the energy in one step. So let's say Charlotta really needs to shift and transform the energy around her heart chakra, okay? So what I like to do, I still would run my pendulum. Now running it over her, she's gonna be fully aligned because she's not living a complex human life, right? But I still would run the pendulum one more time because a self-report is one thing and clients are usually accurate, but sometimes it's like when you take your car to the mechanic and they open the hood and they're like, you got other problems. You know, you think it's your solar plexus, but turns out your root chakra is all kinds of messed up, or your crown chakra isn't aligned or whatever. So it's good to run the pendulum just to see if there's any other places that you need to do some work. And then you can come in and begin the process. So again, the motion is, and you do not have to touch this on the body. You can if you want to, but remember, this has a 12-inch energy field, you have a 12-inch energy field. As long as this is within 2 feet, it is in the field. Does that make sense? And that's why technically you don't have to touch the floor to release the energy. I just like to. For me, because I take the removal of anything unwanted so seriously, because all my spaces are so sacred, it just makes me feel like the loop is complete when I touch the floor. But again, if I'm within 2 feet of the floor, I'm releasing it to the floor and by extension to the earth. Does that make sense? Okay, so going into the field and out, in with the feminine side, out, with the feminine side, out, in with the feminine side, out, in with the feminine side, out with the masculine, in feminine, out masculine, in feminine, out masculine. A good general rule is 12 times. I always go in with 12, right? I lost count, but I'm right in that neighborhood. And then I like to run the pendulum again. And if the blockage is still there, I'll go for another round of 12 until I get a clear reading. Pendulums, and if you guys have been with me for a long time, you know pendulums are my check. When I use the pendulum during intuitive readings, when I channel, because it tells me is the work complete and it's accurate. And then I would check. Now, one technique that I came up with that I want to share with you, and you can see if you like it, okay? Why 12? 12 is one of the most powerful numbers of cycle completion. It's true. Because 3, 6, and 9 are the most important numbers in the universe. There are 12 signs of the zodiac. There are 12 months in a year. And it is a really powerful number for completing cycles. Now, if you feel more connected to 6, if you feel more connected to 7, 7 is another really powerful cycle completion number. So 7's okay too. But 12 for me is a magic number for a lot of different reasons. Yeah. Isn't that cool? You can totally do more than one chakra at a time. And can I teach you a technique that I came up with? If you like it, use it. If you don't, that's okay. And I'm going to teach it to you both for sealing your aura and for releasing, because you don't want to. This felt like a too tight of a container for me, but I could imagine someone wanting it if they were going through something intense in their life. That's right, 12 disciples, 12 tribes. That's right. So Jen, and if you're just coming in now, a lot of the questions you might have may have been answered in an earlier part, so I'm going to give you quick responses, but I really would encourage you to go back to the beginning, because we've come through quite a lot of territory tonight. The primary ways you know you have a blockage is pain, anxiety or depression, are usually signs of energetic blockages. And then I always check everything with my pendulum. My favorite way to check if you have a blockage is to run your pendulum, and I showed you how to do this just a few minutes ago, through the 7 chakras, starting with the crown down to the root and back up. If you have a blockage in one of your chakras, that's going to help you diagnose what the specific blockage is. Yeah. And how many times can you clear? Until it's clear. I had a client once, I was like, well, we're going to be here all night. Sorry. I hope you don't have other plans, but you've got some stuff going on. Okay. So I had this, I was kind of playing with this tool, and I came up with this process. I tried it on myself. Like I said, it was a little too much for me energetically, because I kind of sat with it. But I'm always trying to come up with new techniques and ways to use your tools that are innovative. So I came up with this. It almost feels like sewing, is the only way I can describe this to you. But I used this tool to create a perimeter around my energetic field, because it's got very protective stones in it. So I was thinking, when I have someone who's they're afraid, or they're feeling like their psychic boundaries have been violated, or they really need some quick, instant, and really powerful protection, what could they use? So I'm going to show you the technique that I came up with and see if it resonates with you. Okay, so I started at the top of my head. I can show it to you on me first. And I went through, and I basically looped this all the way through my energy field. And I brought it around behind me. And then I brought it through over the front of me. And you can just carry it through to the back of your field. It's a little trickier on the back, obviously. I did my best to kind of cover my entire field. So what I basically did was I kind of knitted a little energetic blanket around myself. It would be much easier to do it on someone else. So I could bring it through her field, and it's basically like threading a needle. And so you're bringing it through, in and out. And then I can bring it over her. And then just, you know, sitting in that field for a minute, it feels like a cocoon, kind of. It's the only way I can describe it. Like, the music feels muted to me, like all of the energy in the room kind of shifts for me. And it's good. I feel kind of like, it's almost like for me putting like noise canceling headphones on, if that makes sense. But I didn't love it, because I have to be energetically open to do the work that I do. I can't be so closed off. So then what I do too, because you always go clockwise to open and counterclockwise to seal or to release. So then I went through and I released it. And again, just visualizing the release. it's crazy. It's like the music gets louder. It's like all of a sudden I'm more aware of what's happening in the room. Did you feel it? It's hard to describe it, right? Well, so my intention with this, Camellia, what I was saying a few minutes ago, is this would be for somebody who might be feeling afraid. Maybe you have a client who's coming to you and they're afraid, or they're feeling like, you know, they're under some kind of psychic attack, or, you know, do you ever have clients come to you and they're kind of in a panic? It happens to me a lot. And so that's kind of an exercise that you could do to kind of instantly calm the energy field. And the nice thing is you can do it for somebody remotely, right? So you could visualize them and just kind of seal up the field. You would need their permission to do this, by the way, because I don't go around sealing people's fields, right? That's just karmically not good to do. Whoa, I felt it when I did it to my hand. It's really crazy. I really felt a difference in my hand. So one of the things you can do if you're a skeptic like me is you can use your pendulum to test that. So you can bubble up the field and then run the pendulum. Is the field sealed? Or is the field open? You know, is the field sealed? Yes, the field is sealed. And then you can unwind it and do another test and ask, is the field open? And make sure. That's why I'm saying your pendulum becomes your check. At least for me. And it's accurate. You know what I mean? Do you create the field and release it at the same time? No, I'm kind of giving you a quick demo. You know what I mean? Like if you needed that, you could sit theoretically inside of that. Thank you, darling, for your kind assistance today. You could sit inside that field for a day, or 2 days, or 5 days, or a week, or whatever you need. Yeah, that's a great question. Where is the energy you're gathering? Where does that energy go? So I believe that it goes back to source. And when energy is transmuted, the actual nature or state or condition of that energy is transformed. So I will tell you, I think the release with this particular tool, I think the releasing work that we did tonight is kind of redundant, truthfully. If this tool is what it says it is, you guys, I mean, that's what I'm saying. There is part of me that's a skeptic. So that's why I still release. Do you know what I mean? I'm so phobic about energy being left in a space. Because, and Dave would even tell you, like when you walk into this room is like a hug. It's like a breath of fresh air. But I work so diligently to curate the energy in this room that it matters to me. And I don't want stuff sitting in here and feeling like I can't come in here, it's not comfortable, you know what I mean? So I've learned to really protect spaces, because once an energy gets into a space, it is so hard to get an energy out. I've told you that before. I had that experience when I was young. And the room where it happened, the energy still is dense in there. So as your teacher, you're always going to find me a little on the conservative side, not in most ways, but in the sense of like, what do we do with energy? And I believe that it goes back to the source, that this earth and your spirit guides and this entire spirit matrix that we're in can receive that energy and you know, and mulch it for you and compost it for you. Yeah. So interesting. Vicky said, wow, this works fast. I use my pendulum on myself and then use the Vogel and my blockages started to clear. Then using my pendulum on my cat and cleared her energy. Blockages move quickly. You know, I think it's something of an accelerator. I think it has a built-in capacity to transform the energy so that you don't have to do so much work. If this was quartz, you guys, I would 3,000% be extra cautious still about, and probably even more cautious about releasing to water or to soil or to the earth or through a portal, because quartz does not have that automatic transmutation energy. If this was smoky quartz, now we're getting closer. If this was shungite, we're getting closer. But there is something about orgonite that is supposed to be uniquely capable of instant transmutation. And I'm kind of here for it. I know. Did you clear your solar plexus, Kelsey? What's happening with our solar plexus tonight? Yeah, so some of the techniques, Cindy, I hope might be helpful for you for distanced healing. Do you remember when I was showing you about how to create the perimeter around the field? And so with distance healing, you could either use a proxy, like a mannequin like I use, and work with the person on the phone or on Zoom, or you can just simply move it through the air as if they're here. I like to have a proxy when I'm doing distance healing. If you're going to be doing a lot of it, it might be nice for you to have some kind of a proxy so that, you know, so that you can feel the work that you're doing and work in the field as if, right? So that's why I always try to show you techniques both on you and on the proxy, or at least in the air kind of thing, so that you can see how these techniques could be used remotely too. Yeah, you're very welcome. Black tourmaline is different. Black tourmaline is protective, but it doesn't transmute. Black tourmaline blocks, you guys. But sometimes, and again, totally my experience, you may have a whole different experience, but I don't know if you've ever wondered why I don't use a ton of black tourmaline. The only black tourmaline wand that I use on a regular basis is the alchemy wand that we had, and that's because there's other minerals in there. A solid black tourmaline wand for me blocks so much energy that I almost can't conduct it, which is why I didn't put it in here. I think, but again, that's my 2 cents. You know what I mean? You might feel like black tourmaline is exactly the material you want to work with for releasing energy. So take my perspective for what it's worth, right? Black kyanite is great. It really is. This is another, if you don't have this, we have these at SG2 in a couple of different sizes. Black kyanite grows like a little fan, and it's literally like a little broom of energy. And I'll tell you something, you could make it into a fancy schmancy wand, but you can use this like a wand. It doesn't take much. How's your third eye, darling? Let's just clean it off a little bit. I mean, literally just, right? You got a headache? Right? A little bit of pressure at the back of the neck, and we move that energy through. Headaches are usually energetically too much congestion, too much traffic between the third eye and the crown, right? Which is where most of our headaches happen. So it's really important to, you know, put a little pressure just to kind of loosen the pathway for the energy to move through, and feels good. Yeah. Petersite would not be a substitute for bronzite. Black kyanite would be a substitute for bronzite, and shungite would be a substitute for bronzite. Those are kind of, to some extent, interchangeable, just a little bit. Could it work as an extractor? Give it a go, Kaz. You know, I'm always a fan of trying, because the reality is something may work for you that doesn't work for me. Something that works for me may not work for you, and the only way you'll know is by experimenting. And I'll tell you this too, I think experimenting leads you to innovation, and I think it'll lead you to some new techniques and new ways of doing things that you know, ultimately as a crystal healer are going to set you apart. I think those unique things that you do are really important. Let's put it this way, I've never enjoyed a crystal healing session, and I've had about a dozen like this, where I lay down and the person doesn't really talk all that much, and they lay a crystal on each of my chakras and turn on, you know, what sounds like ocean waves, and, you know, wait half an hour, and then I get up and go home. That has not moved the needle for me, and I've had quite a few like that. I've had more success with crystal healing sessions that are just a little bit more dynamic, and that incorporate other modalities, and where I bring something to the table that I've tried that's unique, right? So I want to encourage your creativity, because I think the more you, especially in this day and age where There's a lot more crystal healers. When I used to have crystal healing sessions, there was just a few people doing it. Now it's like, they're more common. So I think to really differentiate and set yourself apart, it's cool to have different tools, which is why I'm trying to give you a lot of unique things this year to add to your toolkit. But in addition to that, cultivating your own practice, right, where you come up with some really interesting and innovative ways of doing things too. After you release, the soil, the water goes outside. And I like to release to the east, because the east is the direction of the beginning of the next cycle. So it's kind of like releasing it to the earth with the intention that it's going to feed the earth or fuel the earth in some way. So I have a little spot out in the east side of my garden where I go. You can tell it's my little releasing spot because there's like broken bay leaves there and a little pile of sage ash and there's like little bits and bobs in my releasing corner. Is TMJ due to throat chakra blockages? It's a great theory, isn't it? I've known so many people with TMJ. And most of them did have throat chakra blockages when I really think about it. I like your theory. I don't know for sure, but it sounds right to me. That's right. Let me see if there's any other questions I can answer. So, yeah, would you like me to show you how to open a portal? I didn't close the circle yet because if I'm going to open a portal, I got to do that with a circle open. So is that okay? And then I have a few more minutes. I can take some more questions from you. Okay. So, if you are going to open a portal, I'm going to do it with my finger. But you can get real fancy and get yourself a wand, honey, and do it in a real fancy way. Wands are great, especially quartz wands, or you can use selenite to open a portal. But I'm going to use my finger because your finger is a magic wand too. And so I use my right hand to open portals. And what you want to do is you want to open a portal clockwise and you close a portal counterclockwise. Okay, and it's literally like, almost like turning a wheel. Okay, you're basically piercing the matrix, right? And so as I open a portal, I set the intention that this is a doorway. I'm going to open it to the side. This is a doorway outside of third dimension. Okay, so I set the intention to open it or pierce a hole through this matrix that will lead me to a dimension into which I can release energy safely, right? And as I'm opening the portal between this dimension and the next, I like to call in what I call portal keepers. These are archetypes or gods or goddesses or just energy streams. It doesn't have to be a person or a thing. It can just be I call in protection, I call in love, and I call in compassion. For me, Kuan Yin always shows up as a portal keeper. So like I can even sense Kuan Yin's energy. She's kind of been around all day, which is interesting because she was in our readings today too. So if you have a particular guide who likes to show up and hold portals with you, yeah, you can use your Athame. That's exactly right. And then, and I get very lightheaded when I open a portal, like even just now, because you're opening a space. Now, when I open a portal, I always visualize it's one directional. I'm not trying to pull energy from that dimension. I'm trying to push energy to that dimension. So, and I believe you can guide that with your intention. And no, I continue until I feel it. I can feel, but I've been opening portals for 30 years, so I can kind of feel when the energy is open. If you want to set a specific number of times, like I said, 12 is always my go-to, but you can do it 3 times or 6 times, but you'll start to feel it too. It's yummy, isn't it? Do you feel it? My hands are all tingly. And then I send the energy through, and then at the end of the session, counterclockwise, always be sure you close a portal. You don't leave portals open, which is why some people don't want to open them, because they don't want to forget to close. You just don't want to leave like a, I mean, if you believe energy is real, which I do, I've seen it. But if you're not sure yet, and you can't see what you're doing, it's real, and you don't want to leave that open. So just sealing it. And I always thank the portal keepers, like I can feel that in my fingers. I always thank the portal keepers for coming and holding the space. And that's nice. Casey says he uses his pendulum. So you can, again, always as your check, right? Is the portal closed? That's a nice validation. Portal is closed. Yeah, I open circle usually and open portal before a healing session begins. Not too long before, but it depends on the client. I mean, some clients I used to work with loved hearing me call the directions and hearing me open the portal and wanted to participate in all that. Some clients I've worked with are kind of interested in healing, but super kind of still Muggle Town, you know what I mean? So if you're like, hold on while I open a portal, you know, they might like run out the back door or whatever. So you kind of have to gauge the sensitivity. And then, like I said, if you have a client like that, those are the times when just having a little glass of water or, you know, being able to release to the earth, right? It's a little bit more palatable to an audience, right? If your pendulum doesn't move, you need a new pendulum. I'm serious. New pendulum time. Yeah, circles protect you. Circles delineate what's welcome in and what's not. And you don't, it's guided by your intention, right? So, yeah, portals feel weird. I mean, I don't feel weird about a portal, but I understand it, you know what I mean? So, and I'm not here to freak people out, so. It's just it's a tear in the matrix, right? You can call it a tear in the matrix. That probably still doesn't sound good, though. Yeah, so I have completed our circle. I'm gonna release our guides and guardians. So thank you to the guides and the guardians of the North for keeping us safe and protected during our healing work tonight. We release you with gratitude. To the guides and the guardians of the West, thank you for helping to support our healing. Tonight we release you with gratitude. To the guides and the guardians of the South, thank you for the courage it takes to make the changes we need to make and the energy to do it. We thank and release you with gratitude. And to the guides and the guardians of the East, we thank and release you with gratitude. Thank you for opening up a spacious path for us to work with new tools and to open up to a new perspective about healing. And we give thanks. Amen, aho, so it is. And with that, Crystal Masters for April is complete. I hope you really enjoyed it. What do I mean by a new pendulum? So what I meant is that I would try a different pendulum if I were you. When we send pendulums from Sage Goddess, we always ask if they want to go home to you. When you shop for pendulums, if you're buying your own, if you're buying it online, you should ask the person to run it for you and make sure it works for you. Or if you're buying in a shop, you should kind of test drive it and see. Just to see if, I don't know, maybe it's just, it doesn't want to communicate for some reason. I always ask, you know, when I'm test driving a pendulum, you know, can I ask you about myself? Are you able to communicate with me? Can you show me what yes looks like, right? And then can you show me what no looks like? My pendulum is so well trained, it does it. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed tonight. I was so happy to be with you tonight. I couldn't wait. I love talking about clearing. I love talking about wands. Orgonite's fun to me because if it is what we believe it is, it's a power tool. You know, this is really a tool that can make a significant difference in your healing path. So, I have one primary pendulum. You know, that's the pendulum I've had for, I don't know, 5 years. I had these made for Sage Goddess, but I don't think we have any more of them. They're the sterling silver ones. So this is kind of my go-to. I have a few others too. Like I have one in my travel bag and I have one at the office, but this is kind of my favorite. Let's see, Randy asked, can you use the technique you taught us with the Vogel for distance healing? Yeah, 1000%. Yeah, so, and you may, if you go back through tonight, you're going to see some different techniques where I was showing you on me, but then I was also kind of showing you in the air, and I was showing you on Charlotta. Charlotta is how I do distance healing, right? I like to have a proxy. That's what I meant. So if I've got somebody on a Zoom call, for example, if I'm working on Charlotta, it's as if I'm working on them. Does that make sense? And it gives them a way to see. If they want to watch the session, it gives them a way to see. So, or you can just, work in the air. You don't want to work in your own field because that's your field that you're healing. But you can absolutely, everything we talked about tonight, you can do for other people for sure. What changed my mind about Orgonite? I don't know that my mind has changed about Orgonite. I've always felt this way. That's what I was trying to explain at the beginning, although I may not have been as clear as I would have liked to have been. I've always felt like there is something to it. And it gives us the freedom to work with different tools. Like I said, I wouldn't be able to make this for you in quartz. I wouldn't be able to fit spheres inside of it and sprinkle gold and copper dust inside of it. I couldn't do that. So I think there is something to it. Yeah, and I've always felt that way. I've always felt that way. Will you know if you accidentally leave a portal open? My guides sure let me know when that stuff happens. You guys have seen that happen to me before. I got Charlotta on Etsy. I believe it was Carolyn. Wasn't it you, Carolyn, who sent me the link? So, and Carolyn's here tonight, so if you have the link, you can feel free to post it. And then my friend Sherry, who's an artist, took Charlotta home one night and gave her a pretty face and a raised eyebrow and some chakras. Yeah, it was Carolyn. Yeah, so Carolyn has the, if you're able, I don't want to bother you, but if it's not too much trouble to pull up that link, or maybe just share it in the Crystal Masters Facebook group. I have not shown the woman who sold this to me, I have not shown her Charlotta because I'm worried she's not going to like her. Because it's a little weird, right? If you make these for a living and somebody takes her and makes her into a temptress, how do you feel about that, right? So I hope she likes it. Yeah, her name is Sherry Tippich, who painted Charlotta. But if you're an artist, or if you have a friend who's an artist and can do faces, they can probably do a really nice job for you. Yeah, I don't know. Look, I'm not hooked on Orgonite. I don't have 1,000 pieces of Orgonite. I'm not an Orgonite collector, but I do think there is something to it. I really do. And I don't think Wilhelm Reich was crazy. I really don't. I think that there are, and I think there's actual science behind it in terms of the capacity to create the positive and negative charge through that piezoelectric electricity that we know is also what powered the pyramids. So I think there's something to all of it. I wish we could conclusively prove it. I think a lot of us, would like to be able to say that conclusively, but do you think Vogels are better? This is from Jean, the clearer the material. Kind of, although it's usually kind of clear. The resin artists are incorporating other things that make it kind of opaque sometimes, and it's pretty as an art, right? But oh, nice. Blackboard University said I was working on my hubby during your demo. How's he doing? I would love that. And yes, so everything I teach you can be incorporated with everything else. So and that's why you're building your little toolkit. So you have your key, your chakra key, right? And now you have this. And so these are different tools that you can use to modulate energy. And they should all be with your your crystal healing tools, including your extractor needles. If you have those, that's another great tool to start to get the energy moving, right? Because that's where from me, I stimulate the top of the head, the palms of the hands, and the soles of the feet, which are the three main places where energy runs through the human body, right? It's where you release energy through the top of your head, your palms of your hands, and the soles of your feet. So your extractor needle, when you kind of prime those specific places, it prepares the body to release energy. Yeah. Let's see. Chakra Key was session 4 of Soul Shift for last month. Yeah, before March. Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, I thought you had seen it, shared it in Soul Shift, but I hadn't seen you share it in Crystal Masters, so thank you for doing that. Can you go through the portal, and can other things come through our dimensions by mistake? Not in my experience, but like I said, portals are driven by intention. So if you want to, you know, start calling some weird stuff in and go flying through that, you probably could. But I don't work with that as my intention. You know, I'm cool to stay here in this dimension, and I use it more as a release valve, if you will. Yeah, you absolutely can. Any tool can be used for distance healing, and quite effectively. And I think this year has taught us that more than ever, because a lot of people are taking their healing work and adapting it to an online environment because of the pandemic. And the stories I'm hearing from people are profound, the healing that they can experience. So it'd be the same thing, just like you would go through her field with this, you would take the chakra key and tighten her up and loosen her up and do all the things I taught you to do. Yeah, it's the same vocal technology that's in your magician pendants, right? Same concept, right? The number of facets and the angle of the cut creates the piezoelectricity and the spin of energy. It's exactly right. The only problem with using your bronzite star as a chakra key is the chakra key has to be 4 points and the bronzite star is 5. But if you have a double dorji, you can use that. Somebody was super creative in our group. I can't remember who it was, but I remember the post very clearly. They took the 3D Metatrons cube, which actually ends up having kind of a cross form on it, and used that instead. Yeah, let me talk very briefly before I let you guys go about tools for next month, because it's a good opportunity. So if you're like, wait a minute, there's tools, I didn't know that. Every month, on the 15th of the month, you get charged if you want tools. If you don't want tools, that's fine. But if you want tools, every 15th of the month, you get charged $30, and I ship you the tools for that month. This month, for the $30, you got the Orgonite wand. Next month, for the $30, you get this entire grid. This is a wood grid. We had this made, and it's got the pentagon on it because May is the 5th month of the year, and 5 is the number of wealth. So you get your pyramid and quartz, your Congo citrine, you get your yellow apatite, you get your aventurine, you get your emerald, and then you get a cut and faceted 2-carat hessonite garnet, which is a really rare wealth stone from India. And then you get 4 quartz points, and you get 6 pieces of peridot. But if you want this, you have to subscribe by midnight tonight. If you even try at like 1 a.m., it won't go through. And what my team does is they then make sure they have exactly enough tools for everybody who subscribes, and those are your tools for the next month. Does that make sense? So this is the tool for Crystal Masters for May. So I'm going to be teaching you all the properties of those stones. We're going to be setting up our grid, and then we're going to be activating it for wealth and abundance in May. Isn't that fun? Solar plexus chakra crystal bowls are in production right now and should be here in probably, I would say, 60 days based on pandemic, because they're talking about a shutdown in the country where those are being manufactured, which is kind of a bummer. But as long as they don't get shut down, they should be here within 60 days. They're all made by hand, so it's like literally one by one, but we're working on them right now. Yeah, it's midnight PST. So this is the drum. Momo had these drums made. In Bali. They're total gong drums. Usually with most small drums, you can't hear that reverberation, but Momo personally oversaw the production of these. So this comes in your Soul Shift tools for May. If you want one though, again, before midnight tonight. So if you've had your subscription paused or whatever, or if you never had a subscription, that should be something that after class tonight you go and shift or change or do whatever you would like to do. Or if you are subscribed and you're like, I don't really want a drum, you can cancel your subscription too. But all of that has to happen before midnight tonight, because then tomorrow is when you'll see the charge, and then we'll ship it to you afterward. Yeah. So if you join today, just make sure you subscribe for your tools before midnight if you want the grid. That is the rule. And I'll tell you, the rest of the year's tools are really cool. We make it our focus to try and knock your socks off. So I don't think you'll be disappointed. Charlotta, when Charlotta is doing her chakra work, she doesn't wear her wig because we need access to her crown. And she likes it when I rub her scalp. Alexis, can you remind me the hide on the drum? I don't want to say what I think it is if I'm wrong. It's in the listing too, so if you look on the website, it's there, but I just don't want to be wrong. Right on. So unfortunately, Crystal Masters cannot buy the drum, but what some people are doing is upgrading to Soul Shift for May. And then you can always downgrade back to Crystal Masters in June if you don't want to stay in Soul Shift. Some people are doing that. It's up to you. It's kind of cool though. And at the same time, Momo had these drums made. He has had rain discs made for Sage Goddess. So he's been working on all of our sound tools for the last 6 months. We started production on these drums for you 6 months ago. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Like 2/3 of the way through 2020, we started working on these drums for you. So it's been a long time coming. We're really excited. They're all sitting in the shop waiting to go to their homes. Okay, so Brooklyn's gonna find out for you what kind of hide it is. Oh, you can totally add to your prosperity grid. I'm just getting you started. I mean, you don't need anything else other than this. This has all your components, but if you want to, there's other spaces. I don't have the peridot on mine to show you, but there's a space for 6 peridots. And then you can add other crystals in between. In the center of the triangles, you can put other crystals. You could swap this out with a different generator that you have. You can completely customize it. And then I'm gonna teach you the Bagua map in Crystal Masters next month, so that you know where to put this in your home or in your garden or wherever you want to put it to raise the vibration of wealth, because there's a lot of different correspondences of prosperity too. I know, yeah. All the rain discs, you guys, every single one is painted by hand. And they're so beautiful. It's a flower of life in like watery colors, and they're all hand painted. Really cool energy. Yeah, the rain discs. I will give you guys the first notice when the rain discs come in, just like I give you the first heads up when the singing bowls come in. And that's not in any way to make you feel pressured if you don't want one, but it's one of the benefits of membership is when I have very few things, I try to let you guys know first, so that you're not competing with everybody else. So I will do that for sure with the rain discs and also with the singing bowls when they come in. You betcha. I'm glad you're excited. I don't know. I mean, that's the other thing. Now, Bali hasn't shut down for the pandemic. They've actually had a good go of it. But it's been slow. So I think the rain discs are probably getting here in the next month or so. I think they're supposed to be here in May. Yeah. Yeah, something to look forward to for sure. For huge pain on the left side of intestine, what chakra would I have to work with? Solar plexus. Solar plexus. And it's, solar plexus is a bear because it's your entire digestive tract, right? So everything. I mean, if you study Ayurvedic medicine, which I believe is one of the best systems of medicine there is, your entire body is regulated through your digestive system. And when we get, funk in our digestive tract, it takes a lot to work it out. It's a huge, muscular, strong system. And so it tends to hold energy in a way that almost no other chakra system, at least in my experience, really does. The root can be tricky too. And if you've had trauma to the sacral, through C-section or hysterectomy and stuff, that can get kind of gnarly too. But the heart, by comparison, is actually much easier to move energy through than the solar plexus. Yeah. Yeah. Your whole body has funk. Well, we can move it around. Yeah, we can move it around. If you have a headache now, I would say, yeah, keep moving the energy through, and take your dominant hand and put it over your crown chakra. A lot of times it's just too much energy through the system, especially when you're releasing, and that can result in what I call a crown headache. So you just want to kind of, if you have one of those, I don't know what they're called. I have one in my bedroom. It's like a little metal claw. It feels so good when you like get in there and like scratch your scalp. That's really good for moving energy through the crown chakra. And then, you know, back of the neck right here, little peppermint essential oil would be good to inhale. That'll help to move some of the energy through. Peppermint's real good for that. Copaiba is excellent for a headache. And then just, you know, keep that hand on the crown, move the energy through. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. And if clients have headaches, that's usually what it is. It's a crown headache, and, you know, it's just a lot of energy moving through. Yeah. Yeah, severely stiff neck might be the same thing. Again, the neck is always your throat chakra, right? So keep, you know, run your pendulum, see if there's a blockage, and then keep moving the energy through, and work not only the back of the neck, but work the front of the neck. Do a nice lymphatic massage, you know, to bring the energy up and through. Is good for you too. Do I think Vogels work better than Reiki? No. Reiki's magic. Reiki is magic. I'm a believer. I really am. I'm a practitioner. I'm a believer. Like I said, I don't teach Reiki because I don't think I need to. You can learn Reiki practically from like the man over there standing on the street corner. It's just everybody teaches Reiki. You know what I mean? So it just doesn't seem like something I need to include in my curriculum, but I'm a believer for sure. What about the shoulders? So shoulders are, of course, between the throat and the heart, so you want to check both areas for clearance. Shoulders also, though, a lot of times if you have not cleared the nadis, the energy centers on your hands, that pain will reverberate up through your arms, and then you'll start getting weird shoulder pain. So the number one thing to do is make sure you're clearing your hands every single day. I smudge my hands, I massage my hands. I'm a big believer in really taking care of your hands. Every single morning I take, I've been using rapeseed oil because it feels good, and I have a friend who recommends it. So every morning after I wake up, I take rapeseed oil or olive oil or jojoba oil and just through my fingers just to move the energy, because surprisingly enough, that can shift shoulder pain, which is usually sort of referred or reverberated pain that comes through the chakras in the hands. Yeah. Colin, I agree. I mean, it scares me a little bit, and I shared this with you guys, that it's like, where are these people really from when they're teaching Reiki? So I would try to find a person with a direct lineage, to your point, or somebody who's really, where that's their expertise. Do you know what I mean? That's I guess my point. I think it's really important to find somebody great. Yeah. I agree. All right, you guys. Yeah, all the oils are good for you. They're so good. They're good for you should rub your hands and rub your feet every morning and pull the energy through your fingers. I'm not kidding. I used to do it to the kids when they were having tantrums, because there's so many chakras in your hands. Again, if you could see them. And I even do it for Dave sometimes, just to move the energy through, because people don't realize how much they're holding in their hands and feet, and you'll be amazed at how relaxed you feel after a nice hand massage and a foot massage. And it doesn't take much. I mean, these are simple ingredients. You can use, if you've got coconut oil in your kitchen, which I make granola, do you? So you probably have a jar of, like, you know, raw coconut oil. Use that on your hands and feet every morning. It's beautiful. It's perfect. So, you bet. All right. Well, thanks, you guys. And thank you, Alexis, as always. I hope it was okay that we went over time tonight. I tried to finish class and just do Q&A afterwards. So when I do that, please know I don't want you to feel obligated to stay. If you really need to be done with class at 2 hours, I always try to keep it within that time frame, but sometimes it's nice just to stay afterward and chit chat with you and see if you have any questions I can answer. So it was a pleasure to be with you tonight. It really was. I get to see you again tomorrow night. Do you know that? From 5 to 6 p.m., I'm doing live crystal readings into our Crystal Masters Facebook group. And I love that too. It's one of my favorite things of the month. So from 5 to 6 p.m., I will be live in our Crystal Masters Facebook group tomorrow doing live readings just for you. And then on Friday, I shall rest. I've been going a lot. I had New Moon Sunday, and then it's been kind of a straight movement through. But I also like weeks like this when there's a lot going on, you know? For me, being in touch with you guys and teaching and having sessions with you guys brings a lot of joy. So, woohoo! All right, well, on we go. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. If you are grabbing tools like the kyanite or the smoky quartz or anything, your code is SPRING19 for 19% off. And then I'm just gonna quickly go live after this. Alexis, you do not need to stay. I'm gonna go live into Soul Shift for a few minutes because first of all, I wanted to show you guys my compassion altar with Kuan Yin. And I want to make sure that people in Soul Shift have seen their drum too. So if you want to hang out with me for like 5 more minutes, I'm going to sign off here and go live into your Soul Shift Facebook group for just a few. Mwah! Have a great rest of your night, everybody. We'll see you soon. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you.